IB Nation, what's going on? Ryan Roberts, Director of Recruiting here at Irish Breakdown, live from the All-American Bowl in San Antonio, Texas for day 2 of the All-American Bowl practice schedule. It was a very interesting day, very tiring day, a lot of moving parts, and it was a lot of more opportunities for Notre Dame 2023 recruiting class that is down here to have a major impact and show that the future of Notre Dame football is in very good hands. So if you missed the recap yesterday, I would urge you to go back and watch it, the day 1 recap for Notre Dame signees. So for the players that we have down here, on the west side, you have 3 players from Notre Dame. Micah Bell, cornerback out of Kincaid School in the state of Texas. You have Drake Bowen, Buckets Award winner out of Indiana, also the Mr. Football in the state of Indiana this year. And you also have Sullivan Absher, who was a late addition. Last Thursday, he got the call to come play offensive line for the team. He is out of South Point High School in the state of North Carolina. On the east side, you have 2 players on the defensive side of the ball. Brendan Vernon out of Mentor High School in Mentor, Ohio, is playing defensive line along with guys like Keon Keeley. And you have on the back end, Mr. Radon Schuler out of the state of New Jersey, Irvington High School, the first ever early enrollee out of Irvington High School, going to be enrolling at Notre Dame next weekend, or moving in officially next weekend. So very talented 5-man group that is down here. Day 2, this is how I spent my day. The morning, West team and the East team both had practice at the same time today. One was at the Alamo Dome. The other was at the other location nearby as well that they have been working out at. So I decided to check out the West squad because there's 3 of them. And then the great part about this is that in the afternoon at the Alamo Dome, they had a joint practice that had both the East squad and the West squad present. So I took in the West this morning. Some tidbits from that practice that I found very interesting and I want to share with you all. So again, the West squad is Micah Bell, cornerback, Sullivan Absher, offensive lineman, and Drake Bowen, linebacker. If you saw my recap yesterday or read the piece I had recapping the West team day 1 of practice, you'll know that Micah Bell was pretty limited yesterday in practice. I talked to Micah today after the second practice, actually after the first one, about his issue yesterday. So he wasn't available pretty much all day from a individual perspective, 7-on-7 perspective. He did play in some team drills in yesterday's practice, but he was dealing with a back strain. So it was really kind of cramping up on him, limited him to what he could do yesterday in practice. So you didn't see a ton of him. You saw in team you saw the glimpses of what makes Micah Bell so special, right? He's a great athlete. He's explosive. He's fast. All those great stuff. You saw that. Today, however, you saw it from start to finish in practice 1 and throughout the entirety of the day. Micah was playing inside. He was playing safety as well during this practice, this first practice for the West squad. He looked fantastic, man. He drove on the football tremendously well. Short area quickness is just eye-popping, to be honest. So he had this one rep that was in 7-on-7 where they threw I think it was either an out or a comeback to the sideline. And he was in off coverage, and he stuck his foot in the ground quick and close and was able to come back and break the pass up on the sideline. Tremendous play. Later in team drills, he was playing outside corner against Malachi Coleman, who's going to Nebraska. And if you haven't seen Malachi Coleman, my man is 6'4", 6'5", and has reportedly run a 4.4 flat in the 40. So he is long and he is fast. He's explosive, track kid. And not only did Micah match stride for stride, if you see this clip, he looked like he was jogging with a kid that's a 4.4 flat type of player working down the football field. And perhaps the most impressive part of the rep is, despite Micah only being about 5'10", playing against a 6'4", 6'5" kid, he played above the rim, played at the catch point, and broke up this pass against Malachi Moore, which was pretty eye-popping, to be honest, for a kid his size. So first practice, tremendous practice for Micah Bell. I would argue, I didn't see the East, obviously, this morning. I would argue he was the best defensive back for the West in that first practice. He was tremendous. Sullivan Absher, also, if you heard my recap yesterday, had a little bit of an up and down day. In team and in inside run, he looked very good. The run game stuff is easy for Sullivan Absher. Very easy. Pass protection is a different issue. Yesterday in practice, and he comes from a triple option team, so we shouldn't be super surprised that pass protection is something that is still getting worked out. Yesterday, not many reps he won all day. It was tough in pass protection. It was just late hands, not moving his feet properly, kind of redirecting in space. It wasn't great playing both tackle and guard yesterday. Today in the first practice, he looked like a completely different football player, man. He was patient in pass pro. He had much more active hands, was able to stun people at the point of attack, and really use that size and that physicality to sit down on power once he got his body in proper positioning. So Sullivan Absher took a massive step forward. He truly looked like a different football player day two compared to day one. And if you listen to my recap yesterday, that was what I wanted to see most. Because for players that are making that type of a transition from a triple option offense to more of a open, pass protect, play in space a little bit more, it's going to be a massive transition. Like, there's no doubt about it. And it looked dicey at first for Sullivan, but it's about what he does day two, day three, the entirety of the week. Took massive steps forward. And again, I thought he looked really good in the first practice this morning, as did Drake Bowen, who linebacker at Van Drain High School in the state of Indiana. Again, Buckets Award winner, Mr. Football in the state of Indiana. Drake was a playmaker yesterday in practice. He had an interception in the West practice yesterday. He had an incredible play in pursuits on a screen pass in that play. He was making plays all over the football field in that practice. Today, not as many flash plays, but the things that you love about Drake Bowen and the things that were consistent from the first practice this morning to the joints practice and the scrimmage this afternoon was he has already assumed a leadership role and the vocal side of the game for being a play caller and being able to get the defense set. That's stuff that is already on Drake Bowen's plate. And he's thriving at it, man. Despite him playing with Anthony Hill, who is a highly touted, borderline five-star recruit, true Mike on the next level, Drake Bowen's playing Mike the majority of the time, and he is setting the defense, and he is playing tremendous football. Run fits are incredibly consistent. He's getting downhill, and he's being physical on top of the ability to work in space. So, again, this morning, tremendous growth that you saw from both Micah Bell, who was limited yesterday, and Sullivan Absher, who had a lot of ups and downs in pass protection. Both those players were winners this morning, and Drake Bowen just steady Eddie, baby. Like, he is just keeping it every single day. Like, it's another day at the office, right? It's just business at this point. And he is already developed into a leadership role on that West team. I wouldn't be surprised. And again, this is no intel, and I don't know if this is going to happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if Drake Bowen was a captain during the Saturday's game for the All-Star, for the All-American Ball, excuse me. So we'll see what happens. Tremendous, though, this morning for the West squad. This afternoon, I went back to the Alamo Dome because at 2 o'clock Central Time, there was a joint practice and scrimmage between the East and the West. The first time this week that these two squads got together and were able to mix it up a little bit. The first day and then the practice this morning, they're playing against the same guys every single rep, right? The same set of guys. This afternoon, they got an opportunity to hit somebody else and to see different types of players and different styles. And it was very intriguing and interesting. I mean, the first player to start out with, and the guy that I started with the first section here, is Micah Bell. Again, he took what he did this morning and he built upon it, right? It wasn't even that he just stacked two good practices together. He was, in my opinion, maybe the best cornerback on either squad in this afternoon. He had a tremendous play on the sideline. Again, I think it was a deep comeback where he came back to the football and had an incredible diving interception working forward in the 7-on-7 period. And then team, I mean, honestly, folks, like, he just doesn't get beat much. He just doesn't. He doesn't give up a ton of separation. He's incredibly twitchy, has a great speed turn. He's able to carry vertically. He's able to come up and off coverage. Micah Bell didn't really give up anything today. So Micah Bell is tremendously a big winner, not only from a Notre Dame perspective from day 2, but from the entirety of both sides from the joint practice section. He was tremendous, and he was tremendous this morning. And then he coupled that with a tremendous opportunity against the East squad in the afternoon. So Micah Bell's a big winner. Got to see Brendan Vernon for the first time today in the joint practice. Another guy that I think took a big step forward from the first day. First day, Brendan Vernon showed every skill set that you need for him to be a very good football player. Spoke to Brendan after the practice, by the way. He was 285, 290 pounds during the season. He got up to that weight. He dropped 30 pounds over the last couple months. He's now 260 pounds. And he looks quick and explosive as a football player. And he's getting off the line with a tremendous pace as of right now. And yesterday, it was sporadic wins in the pass rush one-on-ones. You would see a rep where he looks great. He's able to make some plays. And then on the next play, you see him just kind of get stuck and not have a plan of attack and just kind of being unsure of what his pass rush repertoire is. But today, he seemed to have a better understanding of how to attack. Because Brendan's done the last 2 days, he's done the little things well that you want to see from the edge position. He's played with active hands in the run game. He's played with good pad level. He's been able to lock out and gain extension in the run game. It's been great stuff. And he plays with a terrific motor. All those things are check, check, check. The one thing, though, that you want to see this week is what can his impact be against the pass? And I think you saw today, he had a quality rep working outside today in pass rush one-on-ones. He had another quality rep working inside where he was really able to maintain balance, working through traffic a little bit. And then I mentioned Sullivan Absher, I thought had a pretty nice day, and I'll get to him next as far as the joint practice perspective. There was one rep today where Brendan Vernon lined up as a 3 technique against Sullivan Absher. And Brendan Vernon came off the line hard, low, and explosive, and he was able to get underneath Sullivan Absher's pads and completely bull rush him over the bag or the quarterback on the play, right? And I think that you saw everything you need to see on that play from Brendan Vernon. Explosive, pad level, violent. You saw all those things. So I thought that Brendan Vernon really took a nice step forward from a pass rushing perspective comparative to the flashes you saw yesterday. Still needs to be more consistent in that department, but I think you see that he has the length, he has the twitchiness, he has the explosiveness to be a asset in that side of the football, in that phase of the football. So another nice day for Brendan Vernon. Sullivan Absher, I mentioned earlier, I thought he had a really nice first practice for the West. Second practice was a little more up and down. Still a nice wins as a pass protector. Then he gave up a couple. There was one where he just could not stay attached, and the guy kind of slipped off of him. And then Brendan Vernon was able to kind of take him over with the power profile. But the thing that has been consistent with Sullivan Absher, so when you get him an inside run, you get him in team, my guy gets after it. I mean, there's no other way to put it. He plays with incredible physicality. He plays with good pad level. He is violent in the run game. And from a pass protection perspective in the team drills, guards are usually uncovered in those types of situations, obvious passing downs. So as a helper, did a tremendous job. Didn't allow any leakage, was able to help, find work. Sullivan Absher looks really good in team drills. So he might just be one of those players that is a better player on Saturdays than he might be during practice. But you're also seeing improvement from day 1 to day 2, which I think it's necessary and it's big time to see. Adon Schuler, safety out of Irvington, was not tested much in this joint practice. The one time he was a tight end, it was a tight alignment, and they tried to test Adon on a corner route and kind of just blanketed him, didn't allow much separation. The only thing that he's done so far this week is force incompletions. He hasn't given up a big play. And the one thing that surprised me about Adon, and I talked about it yesterday, he looks fluid, changing direction, which is great. But he also has looked really comfortable working from depth, working from a free safety alignment almost at times, or at least the too high alignments. So I think there's more comfort in the passing game than I originally anticipated. And he's just one of those kids, man, that is just not going to give up a ton. Like, that's just Adon, man. He's such a smart, intelligent football player that he's just always going to be in the right spot. And that's been the theme of him for over the first 2 days. He hasn't had an interception yet in either practice, but he just doesn't give up anything, right? Like, he's just one of those dependable guys who you can always count on to be in the right spot in the right situation. And then the final player from the West squad, Drake Bowen. Again, I talked about him in the first practice, business as usual. I think he shined even more in this joint practice because you saw him playing Mike linebacker mostly. And they did a lot more emphasis on inside run and team in this practice comparative to the first practice. Those East or West practices, they're also putting in, the defense that they want to run. There's a lot of individual work. In this game, there was a lot more this practice, there was a lot more competition. So you saw Drake Bowen fill consistently, run, fill, trigger, and get downhill and tackle some pretty talented ball carriers in the backfield. The Justice Haynes, of the world heading to Alabama. So from start to finish, I think Drake Bowen is just stacking days, man. Just a very good football player, and he's been consistent all the way through. So 2 excellent days for Drake Bowen. A nice couple days for Adon Schuler as well. Sullivan Absher improving from first day to second day. Brennan Vernon also taking a massive step forward from day 1 to day 2. And Micah Bell, now with fighting through a little bit of back tightness, really put together a dynamic second day. So Notre Dame was well represented. The future of Notre Dame football was bright here in San Antonio. Make sure to stay tuned in, because tomorrow I will be recapping day 3, be able to take a look at a couple of these practices tomorrow, check out these fantastic football players from all around the country. So if you want to hit that like button on the video, subscribe to the podcast, and more than anything, hit that notification bell right now, because I'm going to be having more of these All-American Bowl recaps every single day for you all to get into and to get recapped on everything you need to know from a Notre Dame perspective. So please, subscribe to the podcast, but also hit that notification bell so you get everything. And if you're listening to me on your favorite podcast platform, 5-star reviews are very much appreciated. So go Irish. Live here from San Antonio for the All-American Bowl. This is Ryan Roberts. Thank you all for listening. I'll catch you tomorrow on the All-American Bowl recap.